Ciao Milanisti and welcome back everyone. I'm back in my typical studio room with a Canada top, which is a bit weird. I know why. Look, we're not we're not linked with any Canadian players. Maybe Jonathan David. I guess that was like an old rumor. I'm just wearing it just for the sake of wearing it. So you got any sort of American people that hate in the comment section? I'm sorry, but I've got a lot of love for Canada, so I'm gonna wear that jersey today. We're talking about players, potential players that we are going to be signing this summer, and the important thing about this video, and I want everyone to pay attention to this, is that there's a difference between noise and sound. A lot of noise coming out is basically any name that reporters think that we could be potentially linked with is getting slapped on with a price tag. It's important to dissect that and really look at who the real targets are. I do feel like there's a lot of fabrication when it comes to news reports, stories changing every day of price tags or the formula of a deal, or if he's going to join, or any potentially other clubs are interested. Let's just try to keep a level head with it and not jump to conclusions with every name that we hear in the market. That being said, we still need to cover these names. A lot of the names we've spoken about throughout the course of this year, I felt like we would be linked with them, and we are linked with them. Some deals are closer than others. So we're just going to go through the names today and sort of and look through it all. But what's also important is Maldini, Massara and Moncada, and obviously having those deals renewed for those people who are running the management of the club. Obviously Moncada is the scouting department who does a very good job. He spotted Kalulu, and then you've got Maldini and Massara who are the faces of signing players and do the day-to-day sort of operations there, contract renewals. There's a lot of business to be done this summer, so I'm hoping they do a lot of good. But obviously their contracts need to be renewed. What I gauged from the meeting that they had with new ownership from Redbird is that they are going to have their renewals done. It just hasn't been announced yet. So hopefully that allows them the freedom to do the operation of the summer transfer market. Before we get onto names of players we might be signing this summer, and that's a crux of this video, to go through these sort of players, what I think about them, the price tags, etc. And then obviously we can talk about this a couple of weeks down the line, months down the line, if we have signed said players, is that we're looking to renew our deal with Puma. Currently, we earn about 13 to 14 million euros per year with the Puma deal. Very good for sponsorship agreements. Obviously, that was done back in around 2019, 2020. And obviously, with that deal expiring, Gazidis now knows he has sort of the power hold with Milan winning the league and the profile being increasing, and Marseille and Dortmund, who are also under Puma, not doing as well as they were doing 3 or so years ago. Milan now can sort of get into the echelon of the second best team under their sort of portfolio of teams. And now the rumours are coming out that we'll be renewing this deal to in around 30 million euros per year. And that's an incredible business for the club, incredible revenues. We need this, especially when it comes to profits and losses every year. Buying players, this is crucial money coming into the club. So I'm really happy to see this deal getting renewed. I've got no problems with Puma. I love Adidas. It's just a preference thing when it comes to growing up and seeing those shirts. But if whoever gives us the most amount of money is where it makes logical sense to stay with them. So hopefully that deal is going to go through with a renewal with Puma around 30 million euros. That's incredible business, and it's credit to how this club is improving things on and off the pitch from a marketing perspective, and also how the performances are going on the pitch as well. Okay, firstly, let's talk about players now. Divock Origi is the one I'll speak about first. Look, the deal looks to be done. Free transfer from Liverpool. Wages seem to be set in place. He's currently got an injury. I think that's why he's sort of letting that die down before he can take his medical. He's expected to be in Milan at the end of June. That's great. He's going to be officially our first signing of the market, which is great business. Moving off him, I'm going to sort of separate this based off players in positions. So we've got centre-back position, we've got a centre-mid position, and we've got sort of the attacking midfield / right winger position. And we'll go through each category and go through the player. I feel like we are going to sign, obviously, the price tags in place as well. So we'll start off with the centre-back position. So at centre-back, there's only really been 2 names that have come out that are sort of concrete and consistent with reports, and that's Sven Botman and Gleison Bremer. Bremer, obviously we know him from Torino, plays in Serie A. His price tag's around 25 to 30 million euros. Inter Milan look like they're concrete to be getting that deal done, but I wouldn't sort of rule out Milan from potentially slipping in their last minute if the Botman deal doesn't materialise. And why might it not materialise is because obviously Lille are playing hardball. Despite the fact I've been linked with Botman for over 6 months now since the Kaya injury, and I feel like that deal was it's near enough set to be in place as much as Origi or someone like Renato Sanchez we'll come on to later. Lille are playing hardball. There seems to be some from some touts from the Premier League, Newcastle, Spurs and Manchester United. They're sort of asking around 40 million euros. I feel like the deal could have been done for around 30 to 35, but they're sort of playing hardball now at the price, and I think Maldini's sort of not getting sucked into a bidding war, and rightfully so, because I do feel like there's a certain price tag on the player that we shouldn't go above. I don't think like it would make sense to spend that much amount of money, that serious amount of money on a centre back when we have, there's a lot of concrete players in that position right now at the club, and we should be spending that money in other departments like the attacking departments we will come on to shortly. So the two names really are Sven Botman and Bremer. I feel like the Botman deal is more likely, despite the fact there might be a bidding war. I do feel like it's going to come down to the will of the player. From what we're hearing, and obviously if he sort of holds out that sort of will, then Lille might budge. But it comes down to then obviously he might get frustrated. He might want to get a deal set in place and move to the Premier League, and then we have to sort of look at other targets like Bremer. So it needs to be this is a very meticulous deal when it comes to working out what centre back we are going to sign. It may not be either of these players. We might run out of time to sign Bremer. He joins Inter, and Botman might opt to go for the Premier League because he gets frustrated about the whole sort of negotiation process. So we might sign someone completely new, but these seem to be the two main people we're looking at the centre-back department. This one's much more easier. With centre midfielders, we have Renato Sanchez. Look, from what I'm reading, and the sources that I do trust, this deal was near enough ironed on. Around 18 million euros to get this deal done. Apparently salaries around 3.2 million euros per year with bonuses excluding that. Look, Renato Sanchez, I've always been a big fan of him. I do very much love this deal. The backup options were Enzo Fernandez from River Plate. I think that deal was looking around 15 to 18 million euros because he had that 18 million euros buyout clause. Obviously, we much prefer Renato Sanchez, although Enzo looks like a good player as well. He seemed to be the backup option in case the Renato deal fell through. And then there wasn't really any other players as well. I believe there was one from Empoli, Aslani. He looks to be going to Inter Milan, so that's not a big loss there, although he looks like a nice young player. Renato Sanchez seems to be ironed on as a centre midfielder position replacement for Frank Kessie, which should sort of iron out what we have. Look, we've got Benacer, we've got Tonali. If we sign Renato, then you bring back Pobega on loan, who's been on loan at Torino, Yassin Adli, who's been on loan at Bordeaux, and you've got obviously Krunic there still. So that we have those positions quite fleshed out, and obviously we'll come on to the department which needs the most attention in the attacking department. Okay, so the attacking department is really where the names just sort of fall out the hat. We don't know where or how many players we're going to sign. This all could come down to who we sell from the club. Rebic, Salamakers, Junior Messias might not be bought outright. We don't know what's going to happen with Ibrahimovic and his renewal. Brahim Diaz is, another year left on his loan deal. What's going to happen with him? This is really where it could be just one player coming into the club, or there could be a change around. There could be 3 players coming into the club from this sort of list, or players not on this list. But they are a lot of names to be working with. So we're just going to go straight into it. Look at the first name, look, from top to bottom. The first one we've been linked to is Noah Lang, plays for Club Bruges. The price tag's around 22 million euros. It's a good price tag for someone his age. Obviously, he hasn't got long left on his deal. He's got a bit of an attitude, I guess, and I think a lot of fans are turned off by that. I personally don't mind it. I like the fact that he's quite he's confident on himself. That's something that we've got players like Ibrahimovic as well. I guess he warrants it because of his career, but at the same time, even when he was young, he backed himself. So I'm not saying he's Ibrahimovic category of mould, but I'm just saying I like that coming out of the player. Also, his his teammate from Club Bruges, and sorry if I get this completely wrong, Charles De Ketelare, I'm going to call him CDK. He's someone we've been heavily linked to, and we're looking at very much because he plays in that sort of cam centre attacking midfielder position, can play in the winger spots or as a false 9, whereas Noah Lang's kind of just traditionally as a sort of a winger. He can play as a striker, but I just don't think he fits that mould. He seems to be best at left wing. So the question is, why do we sign him when we have Leao at left wing? Well, maybe if we make a move for Rebic and sell him, Noah Lang might be that position. But when it comes to CDK, sorry, you've got to keep up with these names here. With CDK, I think he's the guy we need at the centre attacking midfield position. He'd be perfect. And the fact he can do a job in the wing positions as well, at right wing, that's great as well, because we need players that can play a multitude of positions. At attacking midfield, none of us are convinced on Brahim Diaz. We're playing Krunic in that position at the end of the last season, so we just need someone who's a guaranteed starter, and he looks like a stud in that position. A lot of people compare him to Kevin De Bruyne. Obviously, the Belgian sort of links there, but he seems to be a great player, but unfortunately the price tag is around 40 million euros, 40 to 50 million euros. So perhaps we can sort of get a deal done there with Club Brugge. If we buy both Lang and CDK together, combined fee, who knows, I don't know, 55 million around that price tag, that might get the job done. Next up from Serie A is Nicola Zaniolo. Look, a lot of people were put off by his injury record. I know he's had these sort of ACL injuries before in the past. He plays for Roma, so they're going to want a lot of money for the player, obviously around 45 to 60 million euros. Apparently the deal would have to be done around that margins there. Might be even in surplus of that as well. Look, Zaniolo, I think we all like his profile when it comes to, right winger, left footed, he can cut in. He's got a lot of good attributes to his game. It's just a question of, for that money, could we be getting a better talent like CDK or any other sort of player around Europe? It's a gamble there, really. I think Maldini might be swayed by the fact he's Italian, and we need ex-mat Italians at the club to sort of make up homegrown players and players who have been built up through the Italian youth ranks. That might be swaying him in that position because we're looking for foreign players when it comes to the centre-back and the centre midfield position. That might be the logic behind that. He's also a good player. He's not had a great season when it comes to goals, and we do need that sort of assurance when it comes to the contribution to this club next season. But who knows? This might be the step up for his career to sort of improve and add that to his tally. A crazy name we've been linked with is Christopher Nkunku. I don't even want to talk about it too long. The price tag is needed is around 80 to 100 million euros. I just don't think we're ready to sign a player like him yet. I think he's perfect. He'd be great to cover the multitude of positions that he could play at. It's just, there's too much competition for the player. The price tag is too high right now. And I just don't think we have that money right now in this market to spend and also invest in other players in different positions as well. Maybe, if this deal was in 2 years' time or 2 or 3 years' time, we'd go for him. But unfortunately, right now, I just don't think we're ready for him. From Serie A as well, there is Domenico Berardi, and there's another Sassuolo player we'll talk about as well now. Look, Berardi, I'm not his biggest fan. You want to talk about Zaniolo and saying that, Italian, why should we go for him? I don't want Berardi, man. I find him very one-dimensional. I'm not completely bought into his profile. He's a bit basic. I've seen him for Italy. Never been convinced that the deal would be around 30 million euros to sign him. It looks like Juventus are coming in at the last minute because they're sort of our competitor when it comes to going for Zaniolo. So they're going for Berardi. I'm just going to say let them go for him. I've just not really been convinced with Berardi. I think the price tag is a bit inflated there. He's got a couple years left on his contract. I'm not his biggest fan, but that rumours seem to be staying around that we might be looking at him. And also sticking with Sassuolo, there's Hamid Traore. And Traore is a great player. He plays the attacking midfield position. I find him, the complete contrast to Berardi is a lot less predictable. He's got a lot of talent. He's younger, and they want around 30 million euros for him. And as much as I think that's a kind of okay price for the market these days, they seem to be slapping 30 million euros on all their players, whether it's Scamacca, Raspadori, Berardi, Traore, Fratesi. They're all 30 million euros players, but for some reason they finished 11th in the league, which is a bit weird. I understand the price tag behind him because he does look like a great kid with a lot of potential, but I don't think he's, with his lack of experience and he doesn't play consistent minutes for the club as much as someone like these players from Club Brugge would bring into. I just don't think he's worth that money yet in his stage in his career. And then look, I don't know if there's any other names in the attacking departments there, but these seem to be the most concrete names and consistent names we've been linked to. And I think if we're going to put money towards hopefully 2 players, I would go for the 2 players from Club Brugge because I do feel like we can get a sort of a bundle deal put in for those 2 in place, which is kind of weird because we're going to look at this market and if sign 4 players, and that's what I want. All I want in case there's sales coming out of the club. 2 players from Lille, 2 players from Club Brugge. We've got Renato Sanchez, we've got Botman, and we got Noah Lang, and we got CDK. Simple. We're dealing with 2 clubs. That's it. It won't require too much negotiation, hopefully. And we just got to really go from there. We're going to wrap things up here this week. Look, I can't give you any news on who we're signing. There could be some of these players from this list. There could be none of these players from this list. I do feel like Renato Sanchez is very much nailed on to happen. I think it's just formalities. Obviously, Origi's set to happen as well at the end of this month. there's a lot of work that needs to be done this month. Not this month, sorry, this window, this summer transfer window, and hopefully beyond that. The renewals are important. Get the Triple M, Maldini, Moncada, Massara done. Get Leao done. Oh, that's so important. And obviously, hopefully get someone like Benacer, Kalulu, Tomori, Paddington Tonali might get an increase in pay as well. These deals need to be done. We need to work out who's staying at this club. Are we going to buy people like Florenzi? I'd love to see him signed. What we're going to do with Macias? Is Ibra going to stay? And then you've got the signings. Who knows what's going to happen? I've given my opinion. I do feel like it's the two Lille players and the two Club Brugge players that are the most likely ones to be signed if you base it off logic. But who knows? It could be Zaniolo. It could be me. It could be It could be anyone really. But we need to stick with it. A little bit of patience is required. And I'm sure news will start snowballing into effect this summer market, and we'll get the names in for the door and some good news coming into this club. So stick with the news, stick with the team, stick with the podcast. Maybe put in the comment section below, maybe who you want us to sign, how many positions you think we should sign. Should we sell any of the players? Put your opinions down there. I'd like to see it. I want to read it because I need some sort of information to work off. And until next time, guys, Forza Milan.